I want to get right into what happened. Tonight's late night gouge session is going to be about the VA nurse line. Now, I personally have not had a lot of interaction with the VA nurse line. I may have called it once in the past and maybe they gave me some information. I've never had an emergency situation where I had to use the VA nurse line. Last week I had an emergency situation and I called the VA nurse line before I made the decision to go to the emergency room. And I called the VA nurse line because here in the Jacksonville, Florida area, where we have the highest concentration of veterans within the state of Florida, not just the highest concentration of women veterans that we also have, but we have the highest concentration of veterans within the state, but we have no access to emergency care after the VA closes at 6 p.m. Now, we all know the Mission Act is coming. It's in the process of being rolled out, but currently there's no place for us to get treatment after hours, after 6 p.m. So what you can do is call the VA nurse line, and they will tell you some urgent care facilities that you can go to or what your options are for getting care after the VA has closed. Last week, I was extremely tired, and in the Marine Corps, we're trained that complacency kills. And I was being very complacent because I was extremely tired, but I needed to eat, so I cooked. I was frying something. That something, when I went to pour the grease off the pan, splashed onto my skin. I have a daughter. I've never had a labor pain, but the pain that shot through my body, if it's anything like what women go through when they're in labor, then no wonder women are so strong, because it was the most excruciating pain I've ever been in. This far exceeded the after surgery pain you have. I've had, quite a few surgeries on my feet, so I'm used to that after surgery pain. Had a few accidents in the past, nothing really major. This was pure hell. And there was no one at my home that could rush me to an emergency room. I had to, the grease splashed from the top of my chest to the top part of my navel, down my right leg, the top of my right foot, and my left wrist and arm. So yeah, I was in a lot of pain. But I got the ice into a bucket, calmed that down, got the VA nurse line on the phone because I'm expecting, like many veterans expect when they call the VA nurse line after hours, to be assisted. Well, that's okay, Lisa. I know. It's a lesson learned. And from this, we're going to make sure that the nurse line gets corrected and that all veterans can get care. So when I called the nurse line, the person asked for my zip code. I gave her my zip code, and she gave me an address on Blanding. I believe it was either 960 or 906 Blanding. I thought to myself, not too bad, not too far. I can do this. I got myself in the car. I got ice packs on my chest using the seat belt to hold them into place, and I put another ice sandwich bag full of ice on my knee and held that on my arm as I drove over to Blanding. When I got to Blanding, the address wasn't correct, so I called the VA nurse line back, and I got the actual address to the facility they were sending me to. I'm going to assume it was inside the CVS store. It was closed. So the VA nurse line referred me, and I told them what my emergency was. I burned my skin with grease. I'm not a child, so I said I know it's at least 2nd degrees because I've already started to swell up in my chest. And not only that, but it was hot as hell. My skin was hot. The ice bags were just melted. They were melted before I could even get to the end of the street. That's how hot my skin was. So I called them back and I said, you have referred me to a place that's closed. And so so I asked what the next facility was. They said it was another one way down Blanding that was in Middleburg. And I said, well, no, I'm not going to chance it. I said, what are the hours? Are they open? And the woman told me they don't have any hours of operations on their entire resource list. How is that even possible? That a nurse line that is used for after hours emergency care for veterans doesn't have the hours of operations for the resources that you are sending veterans to after hours. And I told her, I said, that doesn't make sense. What do you mean there are no hours on the sheet? And she said, none of these on here have office hours. I said, well, that doesn't make sense at all because I need to go someplace that's open. And she goes, well, in the real world, we would have hours of operation. I said, see, this here is the damn problem with the VA, because this is the real world. My chest is really burning. My flesh, I can smell my flesh. That's really burning, and I need your resource to be able to send me to some place. I said, I tell you what, how about I'm going to Orange Park Medical Center? Then, of course, they give you the spiel about having to call back within 72 hours. And then this third person that I spoke to did say, well, let me get your last four and your last name and your last four so I can put the notes in your account. The first two people I spoke to at this VA nurse line never asked that. That means when I was calling and stating that I needed the emergency assisting, they were never acknowledging or updating my record with that information. And this is what happens when veterans do end up needing that emergency care, and then they don't remember to make the phone calls, and then they say, oh no, we never see where you called. There has to be a better policy, procedure, something in place to assist veterans when they have emergencies after hours. And having a list full of resources with no hours on them, hours of operation, is not good. But I'm going to tell you guys what I found out, because I'm not the only one in North Florida area that, will have or has had an emergency with a burn. So it is second-degree burns to my chest. First-degree burns on my leg because they haven't swelled up, they haven't welted or blistered up as much as my chest area and my wrist. In the Jacksonville area, Jacksonville has a partnership with that Shan, so that if you do have a burn emergency, you can go directly there and Shan's will be able to treat you. The Shan's facility that is here in Jacksonville will take you and treat you if you are a level 2 burn or above. So I don't know if you have any burn experience, if you should have a burn emergency, but you have to be able to assess your level of care. And then the fallback is just to always go to the emergency room and just battle the VA if you should get a bill. But I think that, obviously I've pulled their information, and it seems as if the VA Sunshine Healthcare Network may be the actual ones who are running the VA nurse line. I'm not sure. I did speak to one of my mentors, and the idea is that this may not be a VA employer. These might not be VA employees. These may be outsourced people. So I know a lot of times everyone wants to say, oh, it's the VA. So the VA is ultimately responsible because they chose these people to outsource them to. But they may not necessarily have been VA employees, but we do know that they were operating as nurses on the VA nurse line. And so we have to get some policies and procedures in place that, number one, when a veteran calls in, instead of you asking about zip codes and all that, yes, and it's an emergency, but you do need to, route the call and make sure that they are a veteran. So getting the last four and the last name of the person so that you can put the note inside of their medical record is important. That helps track us as patients. And then number two, that the resource list that these individuals are operating from are updated to include hours of operation. Because if you are the nurse line for after hours emergency care, you have to know the hours of the facility that you are sending veterans to. It just doesn't make any sense. So that's my VA nurse line story. We are going to make sure I write the letters to the people that I believe is this VA nurse who's responsible for this nurse line, but I'm also sending the message, the information through, let me tell you the name of it, that the VA uses. It's a joint somebody who you do the complaint to. I may have removed it from my list. Yeah, there it is. Bam. So that you guys know as well as I know who these complaints go to, so that we're just not filtering around when things like this happen. It's very sad that cases like this happen to veterans, but this is why we need to communicate with each other and keep each other informed, and then hold the VA responsible for improving the things that are broken. And this is definitely something that's broken. We can't have a nurse line after hours that doesn't have any form of after hours cares on their entire sheet. It just doesn't make sense. Not at all. So let me pull up the name of this. I want to tell you guys exactly who the complaints go to. That way we're not. Jess and I had written it down, and of course, I moved it. Oh yeah. I'm still going to talk. It'll get around our veteran network here, but talking to people about it is not as effective as putting things in writing and sending it over to them, because this here was just nonsense. It doesn't make any sense at all that, here it is, reporting safety or quality issues. So it goes to the Joint Commission. So it's jointcommission.org, and then you report a patient safety event. And this is definitely a patient safety event, because I'm not the only veteran that has had this issue. I'm sure I'm not the only veteran that has just given up and gone straight to the emergency room, or what happens when veterans don't have anyone that can take them to the emergency room, or they can't drive themselves and they're getting bad gouge. So just be mindful that this is out there, and I'm definitely going to be following up. I wanted to talk to you guys about it because it's not one of the things I've put out there on any of the sites that we use, but it is something that occurred last week, and we're going to follow up and make sure that change happens for our veterans here in the North Florida area, and that if it's like this in other parts of the nation, I can't imagine this being a nationwide problem. I just find it hard to believe that an after-hours nurse line doesn't have the hours of operations for a facility. It doesn't make sense. So what can we do? Thank you so much. Thank you, Lisa. Hey, Janelle. I was supposed to see you guys Monday, but that's why I haven't seen anyone. So all the events that I missed this week, that's why. Tuesday, the Veterans Council of Duval County was honored at the City Council Jacksonville meeting. I wasn't able to make it to that. Congratulations, Steve and his entire team. There was some other event, though. The meeting for the community safety net. It seems like every time I try and make it to one of those meetings, something occurs. But because I go to a lot of monthly meetings, I don't need to add any more monthly meetings to my schedule. I'm actually taking a lot of those monthly meetings off. So I missed that, and I did do tonight I did speak at St. Johns County. That's why I went on and hopped on tonight, because I knew I had to put on a shirt to do that. I spoke at the St. John's Veterans Council this evening, and that was really good. And then on Saturday, I will be at the tailgate event. After Saturday's tailgate event, there is nothing else on my calendar for next week, because I really do just need some time. Even outside of having the accident, I've been working too hard. So I need to take a break. So, yeah. And plus, we're getting ready to roll out our national campaign. So I want to get prepped and prayed up and mentally prepared for that. So to everyone that hopped on tonight, thank you guys so much. And we are going to, I'm definitely going to follow up with you in the future and let you know what comes of the letters, because I'm going to be writing letters and sending emails and trying to make sure that in the future our nurse line has the tools they need to successfully assist our veterans. And that's what they're there for, to send us to places that are open, not closed, or given wrong addresses in emergency situations. It's bad. I don't know what to say about Jacksonville. I don't know what to say about Florida at this point. Yeah. So have a good night, guys. And this conversation will continue on Convos. So if you want to ask any other questions, if you have any comments, come over to the Convo side, because I can communicate with you guys face to face.